What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, the Dad Bod God, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight, we got Big Brother Billy Preston making his return to the show. The last time he was on, it was just before his became Big Brother Billy. So we're going to just talk about the new character, getting Jordan to say fuck on a live show, on a live mic, and much, much more. But before we go any further, I need to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sleefs. That's SLEEFS. Now, that's Sleefs.com. If you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to go and check out Sleeves. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes you always hear me raving about. These dirty boxes are the most comfortable boxes you will fucking find, and they have some amazing designs on the front of them to keep that special person in your life giggling when the belt buckle comes undone at the end of the day. But go and check out Sleeps. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, wherever you are finding us, I appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on YouTube, leave us a comment. Hit the bell to stay notified. Tap the red button and tap in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. It helps with our analytics. It helps us bring more amazing conversations to more amazing people like yourselves. So get to clicking, please. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Big Brother Billy Preston. And we're live on Wednesday night with Big Brother Billy. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Oh, glad to be back. Glad to be back. How you going?
Man, I'm doing good, bro, but we're just discussing that Mo, man. That is some glorious facial hair on your upper lip.
What can I'm moving into more my manhood, I'm owning the mustache, I think it was a Movember spontaneous moment, and it just carried on from there. I think, it grew in, looked all right. I was like, you know what? It looks fine. Let's keep going. And then it's stuck there for now. I think it's a little bit blonde, but I'm tossing up whether to dye it or not. But you know what? It goes all right.
I think like with it as well, and like with your character, it's kind of like a throwback of like 80s kids TV shows. Because if you remember back, you probably weren't even born in the 80s, but in the 80s, a lot of people had facial hair.
I was not alive. No.
Yeah, exactly. I have to remember who I'm talking to sometimes with some people.
Yeah. But no, look, I think the reason I have it is just because I don't think I can grow other forms of facial hair that well. I think moustache is the only one I can probably do. So it's the way we have to go. But I've had lots of compliments. I've had one person tell me that I need to shave it immediately. But apart from that, everyone else has been relatively positive about it. I know a few fellow wrestlers have said some very complimenting yet hurtful things. But yeah. Overall, I think it's gonna stay for a while until someone beats me in a mustache versus hair match. I don't know,
What was the most like complimentary / hurtful comment that you received about them? You got me intrigued when you said that, so now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hear this.
I think Reece Angel said something that was rather funny. He was just like, he was like, "You look like a pedophile, and it's a great moustache," or something along those lines. And I was just, it made me feel proud and also hurt at the same time. So
Yeah, I can imagine, man. But look, so last time you were on, it was just before. I think it was like a week or two, maybe a month before
mm,
you debuted the Big Brother Billy character. And we kind of had a bit of a chat offline after that show. I remember you telling me about it, and straight away I was like, "Yeah, this is fucking sick. Like,
yeah,
this is a cool concept." And I'm really excited to see how well it's gone and gotten over, especially when it was like, you know what I mean? Like, you've come out of just having a heel run essentially with Jimmy, and
mm,
then now you're going and you've completely turned full babyface, where you are getting some amazing reactions from it, and it's a really cool character as well, because I think everyone
yeah.
can remember kids TV shows at some point in their lives.
Yeah, I think anyone can kind of have a look and pinch whatever part of their childhood out of the character, whether it's Wiggles or Blue's Clues or Brother Bear or whatever kids show that you watched as a kid. There's
Yeah.
something in that. And it's interesting because that character was kind of workshopped for a while. It was during lockdown. There was not much going on in terms of wrestling shows or training. The only thing that we had going was like promo classes, virtual promo classes, where people had the opportunity to kind of try out new things, new characters. And I found that a lot of the more experienced people who had their character weren't really participating in those as much. It was more new people. I think that's where we saw the birth of like Jim Bro Jesse's character. We saw a lot of really interesting kind of new characters kind of come through. That I think the executive David Streamer had a few early drafts in there as well. But it was just a space where you could kind of explore um, just some new ideas basically, and I think there was a couple of Big Brother Billy episodes that were that were like shot very crudely. They're still uploaded somewhere, so they might get a release somewhere. But it was some very early drafts, and it just kept popping the boys. So I knew I was doing something right. And then I think the debut was around November, December last year, and pretty much I had like 6 months to plan it. So I was planning the entrance, the music. I was very selective on the music, and I had a few ideas initially, and then it just once I heard that song again, I was like, "That's perfect." The Tron, I worked on finding someone to design the Tron. And then the mascots or the playtime pals
Mm.
came about because I was like, how can I make sure that this gets over instantly? And that's where they came from. It was pretty much, I was like, I want a dinosaur because of the Wiggles, because of
Yeah.
Dorothy, and I want a pirate because of Captain Feathersword, and the rest is whatever outfits I can get that are cheap uh, off Amazon. And then I was just adding stuff to cart. I'm like, there's a banana, there's a pickle, there's a flamingo, and then I had to come up with names. But yeah, it was a long process.
Mm.
But I think when it all came together, it came together pretty right. And in terms of character, I'm always a big character guy. Like the inspirations I had growing up was Undertaker, Kane.
Mm.
And I think those were I love that rivalry, and then when they came together, it was an amazing sight, and I was just sucked in by the big, larger than life characters, and so that's where my strengths are. It's always like, how would this person walk? How would they talk? Filmingo is got
Flamingo.
to be a few. Filmingo is my favorite of all the names. It's funny. All the names were have it. Some of them have an interesting, but Filmingo is just great. Trevor the dinosaur is actually based off my parents actually were in a children's band together. They would tour
No way.
and do like songs, and one of the songs was called Trevor the Dinosaur. So that's why Trevor the Dinosaur is named such. But
I
Filmingo is
think
just a is just a pun. It's a great pun, and I forced the commentary
It's a
team to
guy
say it
named Phil
every
who's in
time.
a flamingo outfit.
No, that's his birth given name, Phil Mingo.
Oh,
And yet, a majority of the time, it's been played by a female, which is even funnier. Um,
Phyllis.
so, well, I just Phil for short.
Yeah.
It's gender fluid, it's a gender fluid flamingo. You don't need to stick your gender norms on the flamingo. It
Oh,
can call itself what it wants.
my
But yeah,
apologies. Me to disrespect the flamingo. Um,
yeah.
but you mentioned something like about promo classes and stuff like that, and I've asked a few people because I think that would probably be one of the most intimidating settings to cut a promo in. Like you could go out there in front of a live crowd and think, okay, that's not as bad as sitting there as cutting a promo in front of your colleagues and your peers, essentially not your peers but your peers.
Well, I think it's something that everyone needs to get practice at, and everyone needs to get used to. I think sorbet with puns, forget about it. But yeah, I think something that PWA is really strong at is its wrestling. I think we
Mm,
have a lot of great opportunities to work with really great people. And I think there are sometimes we don't get enough opportunities to cut promos or talk to a live crowd. We're really good at our like post production, and we have Ben Anderson and Jax Jordan, producing really great content. And a lot of people are good on their own, to go and cut a promo, but in terms of live, cutting promo, it's something that I think everyone needs, practice
mm,
at. And I think there's a few people that are good at it, and there's even fewer people that are amazing at it. But I think when it comes to promo class, you're put in a situation where you don't have much prep time.
mm,
A lot of these people who have these big angles where they have those big promos are thinking about it for weeks. And here it's like you got an hour, cut a 2 minute promo on this, and it's a skill in its own, and I think it's something that every wrestler needs to be good at. You look at the best people in wrestling, and they're great promo people.
mm.
There's we can talk about work rate and talk about all that stuff, but I think I saw a statistic of like the Monday Night Raw, and I think there was about 6 minutes per hour of actual wrestling, and the rest was
Yeah.
all backstage promos,
Mm,
interviews, that sort of thing. So I think it's something that people need to get comfortable talking, in front of people. And if you can't talk in front of your peers, people are the most supportive. When it comes to a live crowd, I think that's an even harder thing to do.
yeah.
I think no one's going to be more critical than your friends, but that's a good
Mm,
thing. I think criticism is always a great thing to have. There's people are going to be harsh on you, but that's because they love you and they want to get the best out of you.
mm,
So if someone goes into a promo class and cuts you to shreds a little bit, it's to build you up better. You know,
mm.
um,
And that's the thing, the person needs to take that on board, learn from it, and go, okay, no worries. I heard what you said, take it back, and then try and incorporate something different. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think there's a lot of people who probably don't take criticism the best. But I think
Mm,
in wrestling you can't be that sort of person. I think you need to there are people who've been here longer than you. They've done everything. They have that experience, and you'd be stupid not to listen to them. And you might not agree with them. You don't have to, but at least listen to their perspective and
mm.
and see what they have to say. Because you know, no matter how long you've been around in business, you don't know everything. There's always someone who knows more. And when it comes to someone's giving you the time of day to try and help you, be a gentleman. Be respectful and listen to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think but that's the best way that you're going to grow as a performer as well, by taking that
Mm,
advice on. And I speak to a lot of guys Carter Deems, who even said at one stage in an interview was you know, sometimes getting advice is better than 3 training sessions that you could attend, because that advice you can go back, digest it, look it through it, and you know what I mean, and then train smarter, or perform a different way. And it's
mm.
that is more important than the training in some aspect. what he was saying.
Oh, definitely. I think you could probably go out and have 5 matches, right? But if no one's back there behind the monitor saying, you know, you 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 fucked this up. This is what you need to improve on. This is what you're lacking. Then you're just going to keep doing the same things, and you're not going to get better.
Yeah. I mean, like, what was the one thing, like, for yourself where you thought, you know what, I just fucking killed this match, and then you come backstage, and then it was like, this, and this. Like, have you ever had one of those moments where you've just gone, like, yeah, that was the shit. I just went out there and fucking just popped the fucking universe out there, and you've come back, and then it's like, oh shit, it wasn't as good as I thought.
Um, Kind of. Off the top of my head, something that does come to mind. I was wrestling at IWA. It was Team PE class, so myself, Jimmy Townsend, and Parker Thomas versus it was Mark Mercedes,
Oh wow.
Robbie Zuko, and I think Brett Brady.
Mm.
And it was Mark Mercedes' retirement match. And I think we were like, we're gonna take this. We're gonna burn the house down. We're gonna have an absolute barn burner. All the boys are gonna be backstage. They're gonna be popping. It's gonna be great. And then
Yeah.
we went long. We had a long match. And we thought, yeah, this is great. And we get back to the stage. We're high fiving each other. We get back behind the monitor, and none of the boys are there. They're all fucked off. And we're just like,
Oh,
oh, like maybe we went a bit long, but yeah,
hey,
I
when
think
it's
that,
Mark Mercedes and he's in the match, he goes as long as he wants, brother.
yeah. So yeah, that was that was an interesting experience. But yeah, I think that was when I was still pretty newish. I think yeah, maybe 2 3 years in at that point.
How do you find like wrestling at IWA? Do you enjoy going and doing the shows with them?
I haven't done an IWA show in a while.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy the pro. It's actually funny. Um, IWA was where I first saw like live wrestling. So I
Same
grew up.
here.
Yeah, I grew up around like the eastern suburbs near like the Maroubra area. So like eastern
Mhm.
beaches around there. And they still run the South Juniors at
Yeah.
Kingsford. And so when I was about 10, my dad took me to the first IWA show. I think Mark Mercedes was champ at the time. To be honest, I can't really remember um, any other wrestlers besides Mark Mercedes and Birdman. Because Birdman was the first live match I watched. It was Birdman versus a guy that was looked like a skinnier, jacked caveman hug. And I remember that was the first match, and Mark Mercedes was also wrestling on it. So that was my first experience as an audience member of wrestling. And then when I was 18 and I was thinking about getting into the business,
Mm.
I thought, you know what? I think what I want to do is I want to watch another live show just to see if it's something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
And I looked up IWA because that was the one I knew. And they had a show in the city. I went to it, and a few weeks later, PWA had their tryout, and all the people that I was really impressed by on the show, they were trainers or they were trainees of PWA, and I thought, this is the place that I have
Mm.
to train if I want to be good. And so it's an interesting journey, like starting as an audience member of IWA, and then getting to a point where I was getting booked on the shows and as a
Yeah.
performer. Um,
That's
so
kind
it
of
was,
like it's almost like a little bit surreal because it's like when you go there as a kid and you watch a wrestling show, you're like, oh
yeah,
wow, this is because when you're that age, you look at it, it's like that's like WrestleMania almost. You know what I mean? Like this is wow, this is cool as shit. And then
yeah,
it's like you have that little bit of a nostalgia feel when you get older towards it, right?
yeah. I think so. It was a really interesting experience. I wrestled AWS show not too long ago, and the first one I went to, Birdman was on the show as well, and I thought that's like an interesting experience. Like the
Yeah.
first person I ever saw wrestle live, and now I'm like a peer. So I was like, look, I went up to him. I was like, yeah, look, do you mind if I get a photo? Because my dad will pop very very much. Because he remembers when I was like this big,
Yeah.
and he took me to his first show. So I thought it'd be a nice touching moment for him. He's like, oh yeah, brother, nah, it's all good.
I love
Uh,
Phil is so cool. He's always so friendly to everyone backstage.
oh, he's a lovely human being, unless you're on his bad books. Which I think, as long stay in his good books. You want to stay in his good books. So
yeah.
yeah, no, great. He was a great brother.
I remember like he was on the first show that I went to go see like 20 years ago, and it was
I was
like
probably at that show.
yeah, well, dude, this was like 2000 or 2001 or some shit, and he was like not the Birdman. He was like big Phil Picasso, and he like
Mm,
honestly like just like he just was like the most scariest looking motherfucker you will ever see. Like he was like a real badass heel. And it's like where
yeah,
he is now, I'm like, man, fuck, go back to that,
he
Phil.
nah, he's still scary.
Oh,
I would, I
100%.
wouldn't, I wouldn't want to catch Birdman in a dark alley. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, it's an interesting, full circle of a lot of things. Yeah,
It is, man. Like I think as well, like that's the beauty with wrestling as well. Like it definitely does allow you to go full circle, like with certain things, like I mean, like even you see with nostalgia, like you see on WWE, they bring back like former legends and greats and stuff like that and bring them back through. And it's like these people then can reminisce of these times where they were children or growing up or a time in their life where they can remember certain things from wrestling.
Mm. Oh, definitely. And I think each generation can learn from previous ones, and I think there's a lot of knowledge that people can get from the older generation as well.
What do what do you plan to do for 2023 now? Like, I think the new character that you've got going is getting some great reactions. What are your plans, for this year for you as a performer?
I think it's just taking every opportunity that I can. I think it's being able to wrestle at new places and kind of just expand my brand a little bit. Something I really wanted to do last year was travel interstate, and I think I'll try and get that done this year now. I'm planning on going overseas. In I think in the middle of the year, to go over to LA and that sort of stuff for WrestleMania and that sort of thing. Just network a
Mm.
bit more and try and just wrestle as much as I can. So, in terms of people I want to wrestle, there's still a lot of people, even here, mainly in
Yeah.
PWA, that I still haven't had a chance to kind of lock up with, and I think there's a lot of stories that can be told. Particularly with my character, I think very I'm a very charismatic and strong person to kind of be up against. So I think there's a lot
Mm.
of good stories that can be told going up against a few different people. But yeah, I think I just want to travel, wrestle as much as I can.
Where do you think, like, this character, like, transitioning from, your previously character into this, do you think, like, with this character as well, like, you could start to do, like, underage, like, sort of like the all ages type shows or kid friendly type shows, and kids could get invested as well with the character?
Oh, definitely. I think I've done the character for all ages. It's
Mm.
just there's different versions. There's one that's turned up a little bit in terms of
Yeah.
the crude humor,
Mm.
and there's the other times it's a scaled back version. It's a PG Deadpool rather than an R-rated Deadpool.
Yeah.
So I think there's ways to do it, and I have done it. When I wrestled at AWS most recently, it's kid friendly.
Yeah.
I was PG-13. There's nothing sexual or devious about Big Brother Billy Preston. But when it comes to Black Label, um, you know,
Yeah.
I
It's a
slip in the
different
I
story. It's
slip
a
in
different.
I slip in the odd innuendo and I curse a little bit. But it's because catering for all ages. I treat everyone how
100%.
I treat a 5-year-old. That's the trick to Big Brother Billy Preston is everyone in the crowd is a 5-year-old. And that's just how everyone behaves most of the time at the over 18 shows because everyone's had a few. So you
100%.
gotta talk a little bit strict with them.
So, we saw like from the last show, you know, the spot with you and Jordan, which I spoke to you, off air about, and I said it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Who came up with that whole like spot and angle? And how was it, to get that reaction? Were you expecting that
Mm.
reaction straight away like that?
I mean, I was a little bit devious.
Yeah.
Jordan kind of went in there expecting one thing, and then when he was led on a little bit, because he was under the impression that we were peers, we were people that had a like mind, but I think he forgot that in reality, Big Brother Billy Preston is is an adult entertainer. Emphasis on an adult, and
Mm.
he thought things were going well, and then I switched it on him. I tricked him. So I think initially it's all my idea, and I think he he thought things were going to go well for him, but in the end, a little bit of a swerve on him, a little bit of a cheeky prank. And that threw him, I think, in the end. So when we did wrestle that did wrestle at the last show, he lost. I managed to kind of pin him, and I think a similar situation might happen at the next show. I think he'll go in expecting one thing, and I think you there might be another swerve, and he'll end up having to say another naughty word. So
So is this the first time that you're working with Jordan?
Um, I had a brief interaction with him. I've wrestled him a couple times as a tag. I think Wrestling Go, we wrestled a couple times in some big tags. I wrestled him in a singles in the PWA Premiership. Um, but first time we've had a substantial angle together, and it's something that I think Jordan's a really great competitor. I think there was a long period of time in PWA where he was the standout heel. He was the standout, guy that everyone loved to hate.
Mm.
And he had his posse of SMS, and whenever things were looking dark for him, he managed to kind of lean on his cronies, I guess, whether it was, you know, Snapchat or whether it was Steph Delander or now if it's Bell Pierce or AJ. It's just it's something that he always has to lean on. But he's a great competitor in himself. Even when he doesn't have his posse with him. And I think it'd be interesting to see what he'd be able to accomplish on his own. But that's not to say I think his band of SMS, you know, we'll have some competition next show because he's not the only one who has a posse with him. I have I have Phil Mingo. What's he going to do against Phil Mingo? Huh? What's he going to do against a giant dinosaur? Nothing. He's got nothing. He's got nothing against that. You know.
So breaking down the fourth wall here, though, like
Mm.
Jordan, who has been around for quite a number of years, a veteran. Is this going to be a long-term story angle between the two of you?
I guess we'll see what happens. I think
Mm.
I don't really have control of who books the shows and what goes
Sure.
on. Um, you know, I think I could learn a lot from Unsocial Jordan. I think he's got a wealth of knowledge, and being in a long lengthy feud with him would be like a really good thing for myself in terms of experience.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, is long-term, feuds and storylines something that you're personally wanting to develop into more?
I think having those experiences and being put into those positions is definitely something that I want to move towards. I think when you see the shows and how well they're produced, and you see, these big main event matches or semi main event matches, and they have the big production alongside it. They have the big promo packages and that sort of stuff. I want that. Who doesn't? You want to be in a position of substantial position. There's sometimes where your role on the show is to be right before the main event. And you have 4 minutes to go out there, but I think I'm getting to a level where I can hold my own in terms of those high positions. I think that's what I want to push towards this year, is being able to take my character and have those substantial matches and be able to kind of contribute more to shows.
And I think that like that's like kind of the day and age we're in now, where you can take a character which is entertaining and for majority give that comedy aspect to their character, but when they go in the ring and then they wrestle, there's a switch, you know what I mean? Whereas like years ago, it was like comedy wrestlers would be doing comedy matches and comedy promos and stuff like that, and it was all just one
Mm,
big joke. But it's like now you can see a wrestler be funny and have some sort of comedic timing, but then when the bell rings, and I think PWA does it really, really well with a lot of their comedy style, because it's like you see a match like with Big Fudge, who can then go and have a 15, 20-minute match with Jessica Troy and be absolutely it'd be absolutely amazing with maybe one comedy spot in it. That's the sort of thing where I think you're seeing a lot more in professional wrestling, is where talent
mm.
and performers are being given that opportunity to shine in the ring, as well as you have different offshoots of the personality and character.
I think, people just want to be entertained. So
Mm,
people don't care whether it's comedy or a serious grapple match, or it's a high flying Paris de Silva doing a bunch of shooting star presses. I think it's just people want to be able to watch something, enjoy it, and have some sort of story told,
yeah.
and that's what they want. And I think we're getting to a point where people's palettes are more intricate sometimes.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, as long if you make you make a burger, it doesn't matter if it's a beef burger, a chicken burger, or a fillet of fish. If it tastes good, it tastes good.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think people are getting used to high quality stuff, and people want to watch something that's good.
Mm.
So whether it's comedy or anything like that, I think my strength a lot of time is I have really good comedic timing. Just comes from I've watched a lot of stuff, and I grew up, watching a lot of sophisticated comedy. I'd say for a young person,
What sort?
and
Oh, sorry. What do you when you say sophisticated comedy? What kind of shows were you watching?
I was always a big fan of British humor. So I no offense to anyone who likes the American sitcom. I think
Mm,
it's only this much layer of depth. But I grew up watching like Monty Python, Fawlty Towers,
nice.
the goodies. I really like the Three Stooges as a kid. I think that's that's come into to play a little bit as well. But bunch of different inspirations here and there, and I think it's just trickled into storytelling. So I think like every great director, they love to steal it. Well, what is it? Not steal, but
Borrow.
uh, borrow, borrow, but it's
Take
not the right word. But
inspiration.
yeah, they take inspiration from places and they put it in their films. Like they it's a homage. Yeah, that's what it is. They call it a homage to to stuff that they used to watch as a kid. And I think I've taken a lot of the comedy stuff that I grew up on and reinterpreted it to a wrestling audience, and then chucked it in there a little bit. I think there's you know it's interesting because I think comedy is just as hard as anything else in wrestling. I think there's a
I think it's
there's
harder.
well, I think as long as you're getting some reactions from the crowd, you're doing
Mm,
your job right. I think that's the main thing at the end of the day. I think I could probably go in there and do serious wrestle with
mm.
you know any other competitor in PWA. But can I do it as well as Robbie Eagles or Jack Bonza? Probably not right now. No, I'd still need years to catch up to them. But in terms of comedy, I think I'm at the level of Big Fudge, and I think that's a badge of honor that I'd wear. I look up a lot to Big Fudge, and he was someone who definitely helped me out a lot when I was first starting out. So I think I've stolen his spot, and he can fight. He can fight me for it, So, but yeah, I think in terms of the comedy in PWA, there's some great comedy people around. Big Fudge is not the only person who can do comedy really well. I think there's a bunch of other people. David Streamer, he is a legend. I think
Good in straight. He's the straight man comedy. You know what I mean? Like
you need that. And I think he's someone who's come a long way. I think he was someone that I didn't see. I didn't see the gimmick come along as fast as it did, and then it just came, and then it was something that was like, wow, this is something. And I got to wrestle him a few times, and I think working with him was really easy because there's a ha-ha and there's a straight man. That's some people who believe that's the only dynamic in comedy, but I think that's one of the dynamics in comedy. I think there's other. I was having a conversation with someone about this, but there's other ways that you can do it. You can have two funny people. Sometimes it doesn't work as well, but you can have two ha-has. You can have two straight men. With a bit of ha-ha as well.
I think it depends on what the atmosphere and the connection is between the two people doing the spot as well. You know what I mean? Like that interaction as well. How they sort of feed off each other.
Oh, it's chemistry. It's like any form of pairing up of two grapplers. They have to have some sort of chemistry.
Oh, 100%. And it's, and I think that's the thing, man. Like, not everything on the show needs to be the same. And I think that wrestling is always good to be like a smorgasbord or a buffet where there's always different bits and stuff that people will like. Because the wrestling is a very subjective thing.
Well, I view our shows at least as a variety show. You have your high flyers, you have your grapplers, you have your comedy, and you have your larger than life characters. I think it's you can't expect everyone to like everything. I remember there was an expression that someone said where someone is someone's favorite wrestler. So if someone's watching a show, your favorite wrestler could be Jude the Dude London, whereas someone else in the crowd's favorite wrestler is Kai Drake. And you just that's what you have to think about. You're part of the show. You're a crucial part of the show, but you're not the show. Everyone's the show.
100%.
Whether and not just the performers as well. The people who are doing the ring crew, people who are doing the sound guy Aiden. Ben Anderson, who's pulling his hair out over at the monitor, the commentary team. Someone could just really like Andrew Rose. That could be they just they love listening to him.
100%.
So it's one of those things where everyone can kind of get a different selection. It's like you said, a buffet. Someone can go there, spend $50 at an all you can eat buffet and enjoy their favorite wrestlers.
Or you can watch wrestling for 2 hours. But like, I feel like with wrestling though as well, like it's interesting because I heard a clip this morning from Effie over in the States, and he was talking on his podcast. And he said something like, yeah, like, can I go out there and put on a chain wrestling match for like 15, 20 minutes? Yeah, I can. And like, whatever. But like, I'm sick of these people coming to me and saying what I do isn't wrestling, because when I go out to do a show, I go backstage and everyone comes up to me and says, that was so fucking entertaining. I go out to the crowd, that is so fucking entertaining. He goes, wrestling has now changed so much and evolved so much, but these people are still so stuck in their ways Do you find that still with certain people, like they still go look at certain things where they go, "Oh, this generation, this isn't wrestling, this is blah blah blah." What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, everyone has their different tastes, but it doesn't bother me anything. I know,
Mm,
I know what I do is
yeah.
important, and I know what I do is good. Um, I remember listening to like a review or something. Someone shared with me a review, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I watched Big Brother Billy versus Donny Maker." And normally I'm not a comedy guy; it's not really my thing. But yeah, they were pretty good. And I was just like just enjoy it. Like it doesn't.
Mm,
You don't have to be like a massive comedy guy, because it's not all comedy at the end of the day. It's still wrestling. Like, wrestling is wrestling.
mm,
Um, and that doesn't bother me, because I'm out there. I can hear the reactions. I think a
mm.
lot of people are too concerned about internet reviews and Twitter and that sort of stuff nowadays. Just go out there, and if you heard the crowd react well, and that's the important thing. You're going out there and getting good reactions. And I
100%, dude.
know,
And I
yeah,
was with Luke Hawks at that show while that match was going on, and he was going, "This is fucking great." He goes, "There's no way this shit could be done in America." He goes, "But this is fucking brilliant." He goes, "A crowd chanting drugs, like he popped for it." So this is a
yeah,
person who's been in the business for 20 something years, and he's going how great it is. So like someone who's sitting around reviewing a show, who's probably never even been in a ring in their life.
yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. I remember, listening to a few Al Snow podcasts, and just him talking about, people who don't have that experience, and never taken a bump before. They have their own perception on things,
Yeah.
and you know you, like I said, you have a wealth of experienced people backstage,
Mm.
and if they're coming back and giving you positive feedback, they're the ones you should be listening to, not people who are
100%. Listen to the
not
people
people
that
who
are
are
booking
criticizing.
and paying you.
Yeah, exactly. So if people are coming out and criticizing, and you're like, this isn't real wrestling, like whatever. Woohoo.
Yeah, exactly. I think as well, like, but no matter how much, people want to run from it, is like whenever people are succeeding, there's always going to be a certain, majority of people
Oh
that are going to
yeah.
hate on them. You know what I mean?
People love to criticize nowadays. They love to be negative nowadays. Nothing's ever good enough anymore. It's like, oh, the new Marvel movies are terrible, or the new Star Wars movies are terrible, or the new Game of Thrones is terrible. Everyone loves to shit on things nowadays. No one can be a fan of anything anymore. Everyone
Mm.
has to be, be a negative Nelly all the time. They have to be, oh, I don't like it. I watch the pure real wrestling. It's like, come on, everyone loves to watch a trash film every now and then. Everyone likes to, watch,
Mm.
a funny, like, my roommate loves Kit Kataru. He can't get enough of Kit Kataru. He'll
Yeah.
watch every Kit Kataru match on the couch at midnight, and I'll come in and watch it with him. And anyone who says that Kit Kataru is not a real wrestler doesn't know what they're talking about.
Mm.
So
Hey, I think if you get in a wrestling ring, you get booked on shows, and there's a crowd there watching you, that makes you a real wrestler.
pretty much, yeah.
You know what I mean? But
And that,
it's the same thing that like every generation has probably gone through. There was probably people from the 80s looking down on people from the 90s, and then the people from the 70s looking down on the people in the 80s during their era, and so forth and so forth.
it's always a generational thing. I think the older generation's always like, what are those crazy kids doing with their hair spiked up and that sort of thing. So
These
yeah,
whippersnappers.
yeah, get off me lawn. Yeah, no, I think there's always that generational divide, and it's
Mm,
you kids are doing crazy things nowadays. I think it's different with wrestling, because I think there is the older generation kind of saying, your kids are doing all these crazy bumps when you probably shouldn't be doing all those crazy bumps, and I can understand that. I think
mm,
people are doing too much, in my opinion. I think um, the indie style is not my style of wrestling, but I understand it has its place. Like e- every style of wrestling has its place, whether it's the indie style or the British strong style or the Japanese style or death match. I'm personally not a massive fan of death match wrestling, but I understand its place. You know, I think everyone has their own, you know, taste. Like I said, I grew up watching Undertaker Kane, so I like, you know, the big sweaty men with big characters. You know, that's my style of wrestling. You know, and then I like
Yeah.
Santino Marella. You know, I like the comedy style too. You know,
Mm.
and then I grew up in the height of John Cena, so I can watch a John Cena match. You know, even though it's the
Yeah.
exact same match that I've seen before, but I can watch it because that's why he's so good because he did the same 5 moves over and over again and made the most money. So that's oh, oh, all right, Mr. Devola. You hate the
But,
dinosaur. You hate the
but,
dinosaur.
but
All
you
right.
know what? Like, I feel like when people hate on wrestling, though, like, it's just like if you're a wrestling fan, right, and you're hating on a certain genre of wrestling, it's like you're a wrestling fan. It means someone is a fan of this genre and is enjoying it. Like, deathmatch wrestling is something I feel like now has evolved so much where you can see good workers and good wrestlers can go and have a good death match and they can sort of like build up to things as well. But when you see people go in there, it's like anything. Bad wrestling sucks. It doesn't matter the
Yeah,
genre. But if it's good, it's fucking good.
exactly. You know, I think you know, there are some, you know, great people in all those different fields. I think
There you go.
thanks,
Rose
Rose.
putting you over.
Uh, thanks, Rose. But yeah, I think, you know, every genre has its stars. It's like anything, you know. There's, you know, 10,000 musos. How many of them are really good? You know, I think there's, you know, like you said, when it's bad, it's bad. When it's good, it's good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you can watch even a genre you don't like, whether it's comedy or deathmatch. You know, if you come across a clip of something that's like, oh, this was done really well, you know, you can be supportive of that. You don't have to be negative all the time. You know.
No, 100%, man. And I think that that's the midst of it. But I think that there's a lot of tribalism in wrestling. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I think especially the online stuff, like, man, Twitter is like a cesspool of like
Mm.
so much toxicity when it comes to wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
I go on there just to have a laugh in the middle of my day. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I just go on to Twitter and see what shit people are posting.
Well, I wish I was more active on my socials because I think it definitely help my brand out a little bit. But yeah, I can't really I don't really like being on there, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just something that, like, you know, I don't really particularly enjoy. And back to like the tribalism aspect, it's
Mm.
an interesting thing because wrestling, the point of wrestling is to make you care, you know? Like every wrestler is their own brand, and you're trying to go out there and perform and make someone care about you or make someone despise you.
Mm.
That's the point, you know? And I think, you know, people online hide behind the keyboard a little bit, and they want to be, you know, involved, and they want to be the star, but you know, it's a living for us, and you know, I think you know, wrestlers, they're there to entertain you, and they want to make you care about them, and some people, you know, could take it a little bit too far. So
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of when you're a wrestler is to get that emotion from people, get them invested emotionally.
yeah, I
And
I, I
that's the
c- I
thing.
can
I think
I can see
sometimes,
how people, yeah,
but I think sometimes some of these like fans, maybe they've just like they're invested so much emotionally into it that they've like
yeah.
worked themselves up into a shoot where like, oh, this guy's a fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the case for a majority of these people.
I think so. And look, I think there's some people who generally enjoy that. They enjoy people like genuinely angry. You know, some people are a little bit of a, you know, some wrestlers are a little bit of a troll in that way, I guess.
Yeah,
But you know, that's their job. You know, it's to get people riled up, and there's people
exactly.
that are there to make you care.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I mean, it's, you know, you got to be along for the emotional journey when it comes to wrestling, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I think that's the point. You know, is to get people to get people to care, and how can we make this story mean something?
Exactly. But it is that time of the show. It is time for 60 seconds with Piers. How this is going to work, I'm going to set the clock. Big Brother Billy's got 60 seconds to answer as many
Yes.
questions as he can.
What's
Under
the
a bit,
most? What's
what's
the
the most
most anyone's
questions?
ever answered? Yeah,
I don't know. I don't
I
know. I've
I
never
gotta
really
beat. I
counted
gotta.
the questions.
Yeah, I gotta beat it. You know. And what's the
Right.
prize? What do I win?
My undivided respect.
I've already got that. You know.
Oh,
It's in
okay.
a
Well,
jar at the back. Yeah.
I'll buy you a beer at the next show.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, cool. All right, you ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. What is your biggest fear?
Spiders.
What is the shittest gift you have ever received?
My brother got me a little blow up doll that was like this big. It was a gag gift.
Wow. Okay. What is the shittest gift you have ever given someone?
Box of favorites.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh. When people cut in the line at a supermarket or a store.
Okay, so when you're in the car, you're cruising along, you've got your stereo pumped up, you're by
Mm.
yourself. What is the song that you are pumping and you know all the lyrics to?
Oh, pretty much like any musical song. So like anything from like a musical, I'll be just singing it because no one's listening. You know, no one can judge my music taste.
What is something that you enjoy but you're embarrassed to admit that you like? Kind of like a guilty pleasure.
Musicals, musicals.
Musicals. That kind of goes into that. Snapchat or
Yeah.
TikTok?
Uh, Snapchat, I guess.
Okay, and last one. In 5 minutes' time, you are being shipped to outer space. What two personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
My DVD collection and a DVD player. Oh no, a TV with a built-in DVD player.
There you go. That is 60 seconds with Piers with Big Brother Billy Preston. Billy, thank you so much for coming on the show again, man. This has been a great time. I really enjoyed talking to you. I had a great time this evening. Where can everyone find you on social media? Where can people get some Big Brother Billy merch as well?
So, social media, I think it's at Big Brother Billy on Instagram and Twitter. Um, in terms of merch, I still have a lot of my bath water to sell, and
Nice.
I should have some new shirts coming soon. I don't know if they'll be ready for the next show,
Yeah.
but I'll certainly get them up at least on the Pro Wrestling Tees website, I believe, by the show, and then hopefully I'll have some t-shirts. I think I'll have 3 t-shirts available. So if you're keen on you know, purchasing a Big Brother Billy merch, let me know. Let me know your size. DM me. Let me know your size, and I'll make sure I have a shirt ready for you.
There you go. Also, last question that I always ask people. What is one question that I didn't ask you in this interview that you wish I asked, and how would you have answered it?
Hmm. I think if you asked how badly am I going to beat Unsocial Jordan at the next show, I probably would have answered, I'm going to beat him up very badly. You know, that's my confidence. You know, for the next show, I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go in there, make him say a naughty word.
There you go. Next show. We've heard Jordan say fuck. Will we hear him say see you next Tuesday? Tune into PWA to find out. Till then, we'll see you again very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.